It's a really great sound. That's what we're going to talk about today. The Lydian dominant, Lydian flat 7, 4-chord in a blues. So in basic or diatonic harmony, the 1 chord is here, right? And then 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 is 4 there, and then 5. Now the 4 chord is the subdominant, right? It's the subdominant, which means it's under the 5. But it's not just for that reason, it's because this is the dominant, which is a 5th above the tonic. And this is the subdominant because it's a 5th below the tonic. So this is the dominant because it's up. This is the subdominant because it's down, as in underneath, sub, like where we get our word submarine. So there is your basic theory explanation as to why it's called the subdominant. Now, the subdominant is an amazing chord, because in jazz in particular, because it can function in blues and in other aspects of jazz. It can be a dominant. In diatonic harmony, it's always a major 7. But in jazz or blues, it is a dominant 7th. The 4 chord in C7 blues is an F7. Now the 4 chord in diatonic harmony is F, as we know, and the scale, the mode that goes with that is called Lydian. The 4th mode is called Lydian. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's an 8-note scale. This is the Lydian mode. But you'll notice, unlike the F major scale, it has a flat 5 or a sharp 4. And in jazz, sometimes called a sharp 11 because it's 11 above the root. When you get into the dominant, it can be effective to call it sharp 11. So here is our 4th mode, and it's called the Lydian mode. So the 4th mode for our blues is a Lydian dominant, and that means it's going to have the Lydian note, but it's going to have a flat 7. And that's why it's called Lydian flat 7. Now that F7 can come from melodic minor harmony, it can come from other locations, it can have other labels. We're not going to get bogged down with the technical jargon, and so we don't need to get into theory arguments or discussions where the chord comes from. We're putting it in the blues, and we're relating it as a 4 chord, and it's going to get the Lydian mode with a flat 7. That's for our purposes in blues. So the 4 chord is a Lydian chord with a flat 7. So this has a characteristic sound from jazz, and so you could play an F7, and you could put the Lydian note in, and it sounds really cool. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you what is often referred to as the Lydian triad. So a triad, a whole step above the root of the chord you're dealing with, a major triad, is the Lydian triad. That means it makes that chord Lydian, or it supports that Lydian sound. So a major triad above F is G. The beautiful thing about that is, by default, you end up with 9 to the F, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you end up with your 4 sharped or flat 5, or sharp 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then, of course, your 13. We've talked about that a lot. So you have a Lydian triad. If you see an F sharp 7, flat 5, or you see an F sharp 7, sharp 4, or you see an F sharp 7, sharp 11, then you know you can put that Lydian triad in your right hand, and you can put a good jazz voicing in your left hand. And even though you have some doubled notes, it sounds amazing. I'm sure you would agree. Now we have the G is doubled and the D. But professional musicians do this all the time. I've done it for years playing. No one has ever come up to me after a gig and said, Mark, you should never double your notes. It just doesn't happen. Nobody says that. So you can avoid doubling through practice and working out ways of playing so that you might have your 7 and 3 here, your 13 here, and in your right hand, 9 and your sharp 11. You could do this. You could play the guide tones with your left hand and play this second inversion G triad. Root, first, second. You could do that. There's no doubling going on there. So that's, there are ways of doing it without doubling, and there are ways of thinking that through, and that's a great sound. And you can also invert that chord while you're comping behind someone. And you'll notice it sounded like a lot of movement, but it was only my right hand moving. So there is a great sound and a great way to get to it, and that's your Lydian. Now your scale is this. And you want to target that note to bring that sound out.